You do know 1 in 4 people that are closest to you struggle with addiction. And I know that you're saying that might actually be me. I'm the person that's struggling with addiction. Addiction is something that creeps up on you because you might not think anything of it. And I'm gonna tell you the hardest things on my addiction struggles, and they might actually relate to you. And if you stick to the end, I'm gonna give you some tips to overcome those things that's helped me personally. Addiction is one of those taboo words that we don't like to talk about because it almost feels icky. Wow. It almost feels like a cardinal sin because as we always look at people with addicts that have no self-control. If you really wanted to, you would just stop. Wrong. Addiction is one of those things that I feel like is different for everybody, but the premise of it all lies the same. It's not easy, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. Some people actually do have addictive personalities, and certain things trigger them. And that's why they can't do certain things, or that's why they have to put a boundary on themselves over certain items or certain activities because they're naturally addicted. They naturally like it a little bit more. So don't ever compare yourself. One of the biggest things that I had to learn about addiction, that it goes hand in hand with self-sabotage. Because when you're addicted to something, usually it's something that's not good for you, or too much of a good thing is a bad thing, right? So you can say, I'm just addicted to helping, but then become a people pleaser, and then you self-sabotage yourself for the sake of others. Or you can be somebody that's more hardcore. I'm addicted to smoking weed, or to the point where it feels like I can't do anything or I can't function without the drug or alcohol of choice. But let me just rewind it back. Addiction never starts as something this grandiose. It starts as something small. It starts as something of, hey, I can stop whenever I want. I'm just doing it for fun. I'm just doing it to take the edge off. And for some people, that taking the edge off goes from 1 day to 2 days to a week to a month, and then you blink, 2 years have passed and you're still doing the same thing over and over. And you can't really stop, and you don't know why. That's the hardest thing about addiction, is that you don't know why you can't stop sometimes. You're just naturally drawn to it. It's easy. You got so comfortable doing that activity that you almost feel like you have to do it to be sane. And it only magnifies for people who are in unfortunate situations, whether it's financial, emotional, physical. You use that addiction to cope through each day so you don't have to feel what you're struggling with, actually. Because it's always deeper than that. When you're struggling with addiction, you don't think that you're doing anything bad. You think, hey, this is not that bad. You guys are overreacting. Chill, I can stop whenever. It's only here and there that I do it. It doesn't really do anything for me. I just kind of use it to take the stress off. And as much as you may, it's a snowball effect. It's a slippery slope, because once you do it, it becomes a habit. And the hardest thing about habits is our habits become our safe place. The thing about our brain is when we are in a state of distress or uncomfortableness, it goes back to its comfortability, and that's when you have those habits. And usually bad habits. Those bad habits might be when you're stressed, you smoke. When you're stressed, you scroll social media, because social media is an addiction. When you're stressed, you watch porn. Why? Because it's easier to get the cheap dopamine from watching something that you shouldn't than actually going and facing your fears or engaging with people, because it's easier, it's convenient, it's easily accessible. And for a lot of us, most of our addictions come from things that are easily accessible. Didn't say cheaper, because I think that we all pay the price in some shape or form. And when you think you can stop, when you finally get the heart enough to stop what you're doing, because you can start seeing the negative side effects, you might go a day or two, maybe even a week, maybe even a month, but then you relapse. And that relapse is usually not just a bad relapse, it's a long relapse sometimes. You relapse for a couple of days start turning into weeks, and you're just like, why did I even stop? This is just who I am now. And that's the biggest lie that we start believing, that I am my addiction. I'm addicted to social media. I'm addicted to what other people think of me. I'm addicted to distractions. I'm addicted to women. I'm addicted to food. I'm always just gonna eat. I stress eat. I'm just an eater. This is just who I am. That's the biggest lie that we tell ourselves. This is just who I am. How many times have you told that to yourself? It's so hard to find identity outside your addiction because for so long, that's where you ran to when you were struggling. That's where you ran to because you thought that was the only thing that could help you. You didn't think people understood you. You didn't think other things would fill that void that addiction was. So you run back, you take a month off. You might even make it to a year. We made it to the year. And then something triggers us and goes back to it. The biggest thing that I had to learn about addictions is we all have triggers. And it's being able to identify the triggers and those patterns that bring you back to it. So next time, instead of going left, I'm gonna go right. Instead of being isolated and I'm gonna go outside and go for a walk, you start finding different ways to identify those triggers and to isolate those triggers, to starve those triggers. Because next time you're building a habit of when you come to a place that's going to send you back to that addiction, you said, nah, I'm good. I already know how this story ends. We're gonna try something different. I'm gonna call on my support. I'm gonna call my accountability buddy. I'm gonna go do something that takes me outside my comfort zone because I don't need to be comfortable right now. I need to be challenged. And for a lot of us, we don't seek challenges. We don't seek the uncomfortable. So that's when the addiction comes back. We feed into it because it's so easy. And I know you don't enjoy your job. I know you came back from working a 10-hour shift. I know it's hard. I know you struggle in your relationships. I know it's hard. I know your parents and your family issues are hard right now. But I promise you, that addiction that you're going back to is not the answer. Because it might be a short-term fix to a long-term problem. And the hardest thing I want to say about addictions is when you try to stop. They say this usually takes 21 days to make or break a habit. You start thinking about the 21 days. My goodness, can I wait 21 days? Is 21 days enough? Can I even get to that point? I can barely make it through 5. I can barely make it through 5 without smoking, without weed, without eating. I need my pizza. You don't know how I feel. 21 days feels like eternity for some people. But I promise 21 days are gonna come eventually. And either you can fall to the habit and continue to cycle, or you can step out on faith, on willpower, and be like, nah, I want different. For a lot of us, we stay in known hells than run to unknown heavens. Because the unknown is hard for us. When we just we think in our mind, can we make it that long? Will we find another addiction that's just gonna fill the void of that one right there? You might have 2, 3 addictions. You don't know how you're gonna get through. People don't understand your situation. But I'm here to tell you that you're not alone and that you don't have to go back to the constant cycle of self-loathing, self-sabotage. You're more than your addiction. You're more than what you use as a vice, because all it is a vice. And when you're done running, that you're gonna eventually have to sit in that suck. You're gonna have to sit in the uncomfortable. Trees don't grow in comfort. That soil, that dirt is going to have to be dirty a little bit. You're gonna have to get a little bit dirty. You're gonna have to get a little bit dirty. You're gonna have to put yourself out there more. You're gonna have to make yourself, force yourself to do uncomfortable. I had to learn myself. I do 3 hards every day. And the 3 hards usually kind of came towards my addictions. What was I addicted to? I had to do 3 hards to combat that. I had to find different ways, healthier habits than what I was doing. I want you to know that you're not alone. It's gonna be okay. If this video has helped you, opened your eyes, or you need to send this to somebody because you're struggling with something, like, share, subscribe, and I promise you, we're gonna go on this journey together. Thank you for watching.